Man, it's so confusing because I was walking by, Rob, as you know, the East Wing, and it does take me a while to get there.
Well, it's a big house.
I have to take the monorail to get to the East Wing. It's quite
Monorail.
expensive. Monorail. And sometimes I have to just be carried by my entourage of people because that's the way I roll.
That's one
But I
does.
did
Carry me.
notice that there was a origami crane that was left on the ground. So I just to stop, had to look at it,
Right.
open it up, and of course it was a note from Vanis. And Vanis stopped, and I read it, and it said, "I try to say goodbye and I choke. I try to walk away and I stumble. Through I try to hide, it's clear. My world crumbles when you are not near." So again, cryptic. Maybe someone in the chat can tell me what it's all about.
Psychotic.
I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. But it's such a vast palatial estate. I'm sure I'm going to find notes and of these nature for as long as we do podcasts. That's what's going to happen.
Speaking of that monorail, can I just say that as a kid growing up, I always wanted the train that went through the house, like in Silver Spoons. Yep. I wanted that train. I wanted to sit on it. I wanted it to take me places. I also wanted a secret passage in my wall, like Webster. Like I wanted a big grandfather. So I'm going to tell you what I did. I actually started breaking a hole in the bedroom of the wall of my bedroom when I was a kid. Right. I took a hammer and started breaking it because I thought my idea was I'm going to put a ladder and I'm going to come out like down to the basement. And I realized there's about this much space. And it wasn't going to work. So
when did your parents find out about that hole? Never.
They never did.
I covered, do you ever see Shawshank Redemption? One day my dad was sitting there and he had one of my Mask figures and he was really angry and he threw it. He went right through a poster I had of Alyssa Milano and he was like, "What?" And
Perfect. I think this is the perfect podcast to congratulate John and Andre on their recent award. I figure this is a pomp and circumstance. John, why don't you tell the people what happened?
So we won the Harry Krumer Award for the Joel Schuster Awards. So it's an honor to receive such an award. We've been in operation for quite some time now, and we've won a couple like kind of local awards and stuff like that. But this is apparently a big deal in the comic service community. So it's pretty happy to see happen. We thought it had already gone and passed, but I guess COVID and all those kind of things put a delay on things. So they finally got out to posting the winners, and we had some really good kind of competitors, like the other people listed, and they were all very fine stories, and some of them we're friends with. So it's nice to have something like this when we strive so hard to create the best possible experience for every customer that walks in that door. So
it's true.
It's an honor.
Yep, it's true. We continually talk about them on the podcast and schmooze them up. Look at this community. There's the best. Whoever, Mr. Voter Go-Getter, vote for us. So this is something we always do. So thank you. And Rob also gave them a burlap sack full of money, but that's a whole different story.
Money. I fooled them.
Or tax purposes.
You got pictures of your face on it.
Or whatever.
Like, haha.
Anyways, we're trying real hard to dance around the Morbius.
Remember in Street Fighter when they had Bison dollars? And all the guys that worked for him? He was like, "Here's your payment." And I forgot who played DJ, but he was like one of those comedians or whatever. And he's like, the money had pictures, and he's like, Bison dollars. And he's like, all right. And then he just like leaves.
No, I think at the end when DJ takes the money, he's like, "I'm gonna be rich." He opens up and realizes it was Bison dollars, and he was like, and he was like, "I picked the wrong team." Yes, that was.
Wait, are you talking about the live action Street Fighter movie?
That's correct.
Nope, never heard of it.
What? It stars musical soundtress Kylie Minogue.
Yeah, I'm not. No, I don't remember.
Kylie Minogue vehicle? You don't remember?
Oh, is this one with Van Damme?
Ming-Na Wen. Yeah.
Is this the great Raul Julia's last movie?
That's correct. Yes.
No, I don't. It's not coming to memory. I have no
100%.
idea.
100%. His kids asked him to do it, and he said, "Yes, I'll do it for my kids."
No,
That's it.
it's not coming. It's not coming up. No.
Anyway,
You mean to tell me that like the muscles from Brussels played an American named Guile?
Yep.
Yeah,
It
doesn't sound
a good
familiar.
speech too. He had a good speech.
We can't make it up.
Yeah, and we had a good
Who
speech.
wants to go home?
Yeah,
Who wants to go with me?
Ryu, he showed up in a bunch of things. I think John, he was in Wu Assassins or whatever. That was
Byron, I forgot what his last name is, Byron. But yeah, he showed up. He's been around, and a lot of those performers in there have aged quite well. And if they got a second chance at doing Street Fighter, Ming-Na Wen and Byron, like I think they'd kill it. I don't know if Van Damme would be able to run with them, but yeah.
Wait, at this point, it'd be John Cena as Guile. So that's what it would be.
I feel like it would be more fitting.
yeah, it would be more fitting. All right, let's. God.
Wait, what else you guys want to talk about?
Mount up for Morbius, as the great James Whalen would say.
Wait,
this movie has been on the back burner for a long time. I think the timeline for this theatrical release was, originally it was March 19th, 2021. What? Wait, it was something like, no. I think the original date was July 10th, 2020.
Yeah.
Then it got moved to March 19th, 2021. Then got moved to October 8th, 2021, January 21st, 2022. And finally, we are at its end game of January 28th. So here we are. This was the Jared Leto vehicle, directed by Daniel Espinoza, who really has done, I think the only movie that probably anyone's ever heard of is probably Safe House.
I remember Safe House. That's Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds. Yep, that was the one. And then that's
okay.
his thing. Yep, that's the thing. And he was in talks of doing an Assassin's Creed movie, but I guess that's not happening anymore.
Well, let me just say,
shit right off the table.
He's done a pretty big. My personal opinion is that he's been blasting his mouth out off since this movie came out last weekend, making a whole bunch of stupid remarks about shit and saying the MCU didn't invent the whole purple light stuff and everything else with the multiverse. That's all Sony. That was Sony's idea that Marvel piggybacked. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This guy, I don't know if he's trying to save face for this movie or what. But piss off, man. This guy is just irritating me.
He knows he's not going to be hired by Disney, so he wants to continue to get jobs at Sony. So good for him. Good for him. Really, in the industry, you're nothing wrong with your next job. So if you haven't lined up your next job, you probably don't have one. So that's probably what he's trying to do right now.
He's going to be hanging out the Yui Bowl palatial estate.
Yeah. So let's talk about Morbius, because this is a Sony vehicle, part of the Spider-Man Spider-Verse. This was originally came out after the success of Spider-Man. Sony was looking at all these properties. They were looking at Morbius. They were looking at a Black Cat. They were looking at a Silver Sable. Mm-hmm. They were looking at Sinister Six. And now they're also going to do a Kraven the Hunter film, and then Venom. So those are Madam Web. Yes, there's a bunch of properties. Spider-Woman. Yes.
Yeah.
All part of the Sonyverse. So John, before we go into that, do you care about any of those things that we talked about right there? Is there anything there jump to you in terms of something you would want to see in the Spider-Verse? And Enter the Spider-Verse, of course. Yes.
Yeah. So the only thing that stands out is the Enter the Spider-Verse, which you tacked on at the end, because I feel like it shouldn't even be affiliated with this kind of trash fest that they're working on, the trash fest universe or whatever the hell they're calling it. But yeah, a lot of these movies, you read that list and you're like, who asked for these? Who wants these? Maybe they could be villains or side characters in a Spider-Man movie, but how come they're getting their own movies? So it definitely feels like a stretch.
John, tell us your thoughts of this episode. God,
I wish it was an episode.
Honestly, I watched it I feel like this is an episode, not a movie. But tell me about your thoughts on this episode, John.
Yeah, are we doing the spoiler-free thing, or are we just
Spoiler
going all
free,
in?
Oh, why?
Yeah,
Why?
just
Just in case someone, hey man, someone might want to watch it, John.
someone wants. Yeah. So we're
Don't.
maybe in general we'll keep it semi. Yeah, that's almost all I want to say is like, yeah, if you're thinking of going to see this, don't.
It'll hit streaming soon.
Yeah. So when I was watching this movie, partway through, I'm like, yeah, you know what, this could really have worked on streaming. People would have liked it. It's kind of differently paced. And then after 10 minutes, I was like, the whole thing fell apart. So even less than that, I feel like you get to a point where you're like, oh my god, this is a train wreck. That's so much so that you almost can recommend it to people if they like to see a train wreck, like if they want to see how bad it is. So there's I don't think I could ever recommend it to, hey, if you really like vampires and people in white makeup and stuff, go see. You can go, hey, if you want to see how bad it can get, or how out of its league Sony is in doing their own superhero movies, then go to see this. Like, that's the only way I could recommend it.
I would counter that and say, if you think Thor 2 The Dark World is the worst Marvel movie that they've made, if you watch this, you will have a brand new appreciation for how brilliant Thor 2 is.
Yeah.
I think at the end of this, Stu, we got to go over what you would rather watch in the bottom of the barrel over this.
Yeah, we
Stay tuned.
Well,
Stay tuned for that.
I know the lowest bar in my mind was spoiler in 2019. So yeah, that was one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Which one?
Right. So no, wait till the end.
2019. Do you know what that movie was? 2019.
No.
That would be X-Men: Dark Phoenix.
Oh, wow! Is that 2019 or is that 2020?
Yeah, 2019.
Yeah, I guess you're right. 2019. Before
it was like right before, yeah.
Yeah, that was the beginning of that was the last, like, this is the last X-Men movie. I'm like, yep, yes it is.
and they purposely, I think, held it on streaming for a while.
Apropos to this film, because to your point, don't pay to watch this movie. That's dumb.
We did.
I think, the difference between the X-Men movie was that they were all checked out. They were like, yeah, we're not, everyone's like, yeah, I got my paycheck. This is over. You can clearly tell a certain actress.
Yeah, I'm contracted on to be on for this. So
I have to be here, but I'm good. I'm out. This movie, to not ruin it, I felt like they was very rudderless. They didn't do anything. They didn't try anything. They kind of went for like the cookie cutter storyline. And by taking no chances, by either going stupid wacky like Venom, Let There Be Carnage. At least at the end of the day, all three of us hated that movie. We can appreciate if you're going for it, you're going for it. And that's what they did. They had a vision. We're going to be stupid, over the top, and they completed the vision. This, I just had to go, what are they trying to do? Is it a horror movie? No. Is it a drama? Yes. No. Is it a comic movie? No. What is this? I just couldn't figure out what kind of film it was, and everyone took safe choices and no one did anything. There was not a standout performance in the entire mix. So that's
Let me play the counterpoint to that, though, in that I think that this movie had the potential to be like decent.
Yeah.
Like,
agreed.
I think when I'm on record, and people can go back and look at our trailer reactions, and I think it was John, myself, and maybe it was Chris, and you guys were like, are you gonna pay to see this movie? And I kept saying, when I think about it, I say no, but when I watch these trailers, there's something about it that I'm like, you know what, this could be like a pretty cool movie to watch in the theater. And I'm not expecting high caliber, but it could be one of those like sleeper, really kind of cool, fun movies. And this movie is so botched in its storytelling and its editing and its flow that it's like a Frankenstein version of itself.
And to be fair, I think there is a Donner cut out there with this film when it clearly had a lot of Spider-Man tie-ins that they just like, this movie, nope, you no longer get the right to be associated with this Spider-Man stuff. Like even that scene with Michael Keaton in the trailer. You're like,
Oh, so now we are going spoilers.
like no, but that was in the trailer before the movie. Like that's not a spoiler. That was in the trailer at the end of the original one when we saw it. We're like, and then there's him just like, oh yeah, we're just talking. I'm like, what is happening? And like there were stills of like him running through the streets and pictures of Spider-Man on the wall. Like there was a tied universe before the global pandemic happened and before Spider-Man No Way Home came out. And then No Way Home came out. They're like, "Oh yeah, this is it. We don't care about the universe. Let's
not affiliated with you."
But that's a poor decision because it actually would have tied into things quite well. Like it's so stupid.
No matter what they did, if Spider-Man swung through this movie, it would not save it. So,
well, like in the X-Men TV show, maybe the hand comes out and shoots a web, and then like I remember all the people about Spider-Man in the X-Men TV show. They couldn't use Spider-Man, but they got the rights to just use his hand. So when New York stuff was happening, you saw a hand in a web speed up, like, oh my god, it's Spider-Man! And then there was just the hand. That's all they got the rights to in the X-Men TV show on Fox. I think, without, again, nothing we said is not in the trailer, so I'm not ruining anything. But we'll go into that momentarily. John, give us a rating out of 10.
I don't even know if I can. Like I thought we were gonna have to come up with a whole new system of like watching in theaters, streaming it, reading a Wikipedia summary,
no, it's just
asking a friend about it.
You don't think there's a thing in math called negatives?
Can we go to a negative whatever? Like for wasting my time. Like 2. How long is this movie? This movie was
2 hours, man. It was like 2.
It's 104 minutes. So I give it a negative 104 for 104 minutes it wasted of my time. That's my rating. Negative 104 out of 10.
Well, Rob?
Okay, let me just say that guarantee when we do our best or worst review of the year, he's going to be like, upon reflection, it's like an 8. I just know it. I just know. That's what you're going to do.
I'll take up a couple minutes.
He's like, John's going to go, hey, Rob, I was thinking about it, and I don't know if you realize that Jared Leto has a band, and this band came out with the song, and the song I'm really digging. Do you know the name of this band, Rob? Do you know?
Of course, I went and saw them at Edgefest. It was 30 Seconds to Mars.
And then John's going to be like, I'm in. I'm going to give this 10 out of 10. I'm waiting for John to tell us that it was the best movie of the year.
I want to rock out to Capricorn. Yeah. Which, by the way, I will say that their albums aren't that bad.
Yep.
My rating. I'm gonna give it a 4. And I think if it's that high, it's because of one Matt Smith. So
Matt Smith gets screwed. All right, Stu.
No, because he was probably the best part of this movie.
I am gonna give this one a 3. It is a 3.5. Fine, I'll give it 3.5.
You guys are too generous.
Like again, talking about swinging and doing things. Matt Smith does things, and without spoiling it, I was genuinely just happy to do him doing things. But that's also, I think, the 0.5 is because they're very Doctor Who things. So for me, I was like, when he's doing it, I just picture him with I picture him like this stuff and like dancing at a wedding.
Right.
So for me, I was like, I'm intrinsically I like this because I like Matt Smith. Yeah. And so I always gave it a little bit of a bump, but so let's frankly go into spoilers because this needs to be done. For those who haven't seen it, why are you here? I guess
no, you want to see how bad we think it is, so that's why you're here. So thanks.
So spoilers. All right, John.
Spoilers doesn't matter anyways. We probably should spoil it right out the gate because there's nothing to spoil because nothing happens.
What are you talking about, John? It happens. He's a man who becomes a living vampire, and then at the end, he's still the living vampire. That's it.
Yeah, and they took 104 minutes to tell this when you just told it in 5 seconds. That's the extent of this of how razor thin this plot is. So I put together my 5 biggest disappointments in this film, or biggest critiques. So coming in at number 5 is kind of Stu alluded to it, which is the length, which kind of ties into the plot. Why is this movie 104 minutes? Why is it not the tight 90 minutes like Venom? Why is it not 45 minutes? Why is it not just a what if episode in the Marvel Disney plethora of whatever? It's like every scene the director decided to put together, he was like, let's tack on another 10 minutes to make it look artsy. So I like every scene I watched, every scene during this movie you watch and you go, this is too long. Like, why are they taking so long with this? So maybe if they cut a lot of fat from here, then it would have been, you would have been like, hey, 120 minutes. That was nice and tight. We got Morbius. He's here. Let's see where he goes. Number 4 is the whole Angel VFX shifting faces thing. That was pretty whack, I would say. Maybe if they kept it to one character, but the fact that they started going back and forth. Unfortunately, I have no attachment to Matt Smith, so I didn't really care for his portrayal in this, and it was just ridiculous to see them kind of change into these monster faces.
What was his name? What was his name? What was his character's name?
His actual character's name.
Either one.
I don't even remember that. I forgot now. What is?
Are you serious? You forgot?
I forgot.
You forgot?
No. His real name is Lucius.
Lucius. Okay,
but then he's like, but the young Morbius calls him Milo, and he goes, "My name's not Milo." And he goes, "You're the new Milo. The old Milo was the new Milo. The Milo before that, he died." And for an inexplicable reason, he's referred to as Milo. Everybody calls him Milo for the rest of the movie.
He just adopts this name for some weirdo reason. Anyways, like I always block out that whole flashback because I was like, oh, does this movie?
It wasn't bad. The flashback wasn't bad, to be fair. It wasn't that bad. It honestly was one of the better moments of this movie.
Maybe if you cut that portion out and that's the whole movie.
Because that would at least, like, I get it. It's like two kids in a hospital. They're having a conversation. Like, it makes sense. Like, compared to some of the other conversations in this movie where I'm just like, what is happening? I don't even know.
Yeah. So anyways, the next thing, number 3 would be the whole marketing for this movie. I after I completed the movie, I thought, you know what I should create? I should create some type of, like, you know, time, whatever the TVA was, we should create that for trailers. And it should be like the trailer bullshit compliance board or something like that. And you find out, hey, you watch the trailer and all this stuff you threw in is BS. Because I'll get to it later when we get to the end credits and stuff, but the whole Venom line, like you guys said, the whole Spider-Man throwback, and even the snippets of Michael Keaton's characters, all 100% false advertising. So they led you down a whole weird path that leads me into my number 2, which is Tyrese. So if I was to give this movie credit,
is he in this movie?
Yeah, if I was to give this movie credit for the amount of minutes that Tyrese is in this movie, maybe I change my score to -102 because he was barely in this thing. Whatever you saw in the trailers, folks, if you're a Tyrese fan, I guess I'm maybe alone, but if you're a Tyrese fan, that's all. That's the extent of what he did in the movie.
Hey, John, did you know that he had a robotic arm?
They showed it for 2 seconds in the end, when they showed the scene of all the bats flying out, which is, I believe, in the trailer as well, which is why I thought he was actually going to do something. You definitely know something's up with his character. He's got the scar on his neck. He's a soldier. Morbius's artificial blood saves him and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot going on with this character, but he was not even in this movie. And even his partner cop, who got more lines than him, which is unfortunate for Tyrese.
Right.
What was the purpose of them? They didn't even do anything. They could have been completely cut from the movie and saved us.
They were the comedic element, John.
Yeah, robotic arm.
If your comedic element is the partner of a cop that can't even, they have no chance. They have zero chance of catching Morbius. Like, it's ridiculous. And then so the number one
robotic arm, which is basically like Mega Man. All of those things were cut. Like, he was supposed to use it and fire.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so maybe
he didn't even know until he rolled his sleeves up at the end.
So yeah, he rolls his sleeves up for no purpose whatsoever.
John, on the plus side, he signed for a 3-picture deal, so he's back, baby. He's contractually
I guess the movie, as much as we're slamming the movie, I believe it is making money. So we might see more coming up.
On the plus side, like, this movie cost what? It was budgeted at like 75 to 85 million. So it's already made its money back because frankly, there's nothing going on. Like this is so, there's no other options. It's kind of the a Mad TV skit, lowered expectations. Like there's nothing to watch. So
yeah, kudos to them if they can make this work. Which, if you want some positives, I'll go into some positives later. But the number one most disappointing thing of this movie was waiting around for those end credit scenes and seeing how tacked on and how like insulting that was to have basically all your scenes with Michael Keaton are at the end. So spoiler for you folks, if you guys are watching this and you want to know what the end credits, they cut to a bunch of scenes which are ridiculous.
Would have been in the movie. I think they would have been in the movie, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna cut these scenes now. Just make it part of the after trailers." All right, sure.
No, it would have been even worse if it was in the middle of the movie. Like, so if someone left the theater at the beginning of the end credits, they would have been fine. These end credit scenes were so ridiculous and insulting that at the end of the movie, when the screens turned back on and stuff, I actually yelled, "What the F was that?" And a bunch of people behind me were like, "Yeah, that was shite." So
because the second, like the final end credit scene wasn't even Michael Keaton. Like, and we'll get into that after. Like, you could tell Jared Leto had gained a bit more weight. Like, they had just filmed that like a few weeks ago, right?
I'm 100% not surprised because they needed something else to kind of.
And it actually makes zero sense. It actually makes zero sense when you tie it into what the events of No Way Home. Like, that's what's even more maddening about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Rob, thoughts? Oh boy, let's prepare for it.
I saw this movie with my movie buddy, my son, in premier seats. Let me tell you about these seats, guys. Like,
I love these seats.
We're not about the movie anymore, people. We're talking about the seats.
I saw this in not premium seats, and I'll talk about my seats because this movie was so jank that I can talk about those.
All of these seats, all the seats in the theaters recline, leather recliners, but these ones are a different type of leather. They're heated. They recline, and let me tell you something. The headrest also moves up and down. So if you are like this, you could put your like that. Wide tables next to you, so you're not like worried about where to put your stuff. I could hang up my jacket. I couldn't see the people. I only see their feet. I was in a nice box. That experience of watching this movie,
and that's his review. The end.
Yeah. Don't see the movie. Just go see anything in those. Just go on your own and hang out in those seats because it's
sit in the seats and watch your phone.
Like, when my son and I left the theater and all we talked about was how amazing those seats were. Like, that to me, like, so okay. In honesty though, like, this movie, when I said that this movie is edited for shit, I mean it. Like, the beginning of the movie starts off where we've all seen it in the trailer a million times when he walks into that bat cave and he cuts his hand, he holds his hand out. I thought that that's how he got his powers. Like, I had no clue based on the marketing. I figured, oh, like they're starting with this point in the movie that they're going to revisit, you know, an hour and 10 minutes in. Like, it's going to be all flashback of him getting it. Like, I had no idea what they were doing. That scene, it makes zero sense. The only upon reflection, the only reason that scene exists is because I guess they capture the bats to then put into his laboratory that you see later on. But that whole spectacle of the helicopters going down to the rainforest and everything else you don't need it. Like, you don't need that scene whatsoever. There's no real explanation as to why these bats got there or what. So, you know,
that's your biggest problem. No.
What I'm saying is, at that moment when I realized that
that's like the opening scene, that's like the first.
That was the opening scene. Then they go 29 years, you know, earlier. I'm like, wow. And then you see the flashback, and then all of a sudden he's in his lab in modern day with his bats, and I'm like, they're not even oh my god! And at that point, I was like, how do I pull the trigger to get a refund? But these seats are so comfortable. So.
The end.
the editing of this movie is all over the place. The storyline makes no sense. We know that he goes to jail based on the trailers, and yet his whole entire time in jail is brief. It's stupid. It makes like it was shoehorned in. It's as if they wrote the scene that day and like, hey, let's put him in an orange jumpsuit and put him in prison. Like there seemed to be a narrative in the trailer of a man who gets his powers, who is being pursued by the police. He's put in jail. That's when he meets Adrian Toomes, is played by Michael Keaton. Something happens and he has to try to be a good guy. That's the narrative that you get from the trailer. That is not in this movie whatsoever. It makes zero sense. I did laugh out loud at the Incredible Hulk reference.
Yep.
When Michael Morbius is like,
I'm hungry.
I'm hungry. You wouldn't like me when I'm hungry. And I laughed, not being like, that's really funny. I'm like, oh my God, they're destroying another franchise. Like they're just tarnishing the goodness of Lou Ferrigno and Bill Bixby's epic 3-year journey. Jared Leto, again, there's so much in this movie where I think this could have been something. It's like a Streetcar Named Desire. I could have been something, but this is nothing. And it boggles my mind. I felt like Matt Smith was playing it up. Like he's like, I'm just gonna go and be tongue-in-cheek and go for the fences on this. And I think that's probably the only saving grace of any of the characters, because Jared Leto looks like he's really taking this to heart. Like he's being very serious in this role.
He's method, baby. Method.
Right. And it's just so it doesn't fit the way that the tone of this movie, unfortunately, of a movie that was made, but not the movie that we got. The effects. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. Sorry. Hello? Oh, it's 1999. Keanu Reeves. Yeah. No, they're still doing slow motion. It's in 2022 and they're still doing slow motion action scenes. I gotta go. Do we really need to have these camera slow motion shots when you get two characters?
Because the Flash is still using this, as you and your son continually watch in season 8. The Flash is still doing it.
Would they have to justify an expense budget? I was just like it was just. I've read and I've heard other reviewers say this feels like a movie that was born out of an early 2000s mentality and probably belongs there. And I can see why they're saying that. I feel bad for the other actors involved in this movie because it's just not like, I've always tried to not trash it and be like, I feel like everybody put a lot of work and effort in this and it wasn't for me, but I don't know who this was for. I think like, I don't want to see what else is coming down the pipe from Sony. I have zero faith in their ability to handle any characters.
Spider-Verse Part 1.
Aside from but that's Chris Lord and Chris Miller and Phil Lord or whatever. For them, I'm all because they're the
animated. You're down for non-animated. Your question, yeah,
it's horrible. Like, and I like Olivia Wilde, but knowing that the Spider-Woman's going to be in the same universe as this. Anyways, before I finish, I was pissed off with the whole thing with Adrian Toomes at the end. He arrives into this universe based on what the events of No Way Home, which is the opposite of what happened to Venom. If you remember in Venom 2, he gets sucked into Tom Holland, the MCU verse, and at the end of No Way Home, he gets put back into this current universe that Morbius lives in. But the reverse happens. Adrian Toomes gets put into this universe and is now there. And then when you do the second post-credit scene, he's the Vulture, and he's like, and it's not really obviously Michael Keaton, just his voice. And he's like, hey, I think we can team up. And Morbius is like, and in the middle, he's driving his car in the middle of the desert, and he's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let me ask you guys a question. If he got sucked into the universe and his flight suit was powered by the Chitauri jewels from Homecoming, where did this suit come from?
Yep. I was gonna bring that same point. Yep.
All in all, I just gotta say,
he never established he made the suit. It was the Tinkerer. So is the Tinkerer with him as well?
Yeah. So all in all, at the end of the day, the seats at Landmark, the premier seats, are worth the extra upcharge. And I hope whatever movies you go to see, you'll watch them in that.
The Tinkerer is the same character, maybe as him in Men in Black 3.
Right.
The guy who was like, you time travel, man, is probably the same dude. And this will be a way for them to bring Will Smith into the MCU Sonyverse. So maybe he'll come in and get physical.
He'll make that movie slap.
Who
You're
was in
welcome,
Men
Rob.
in
I
Black
lined that up
3?
for you. You're welcome.
Who was in Men in Black 3? Is that the Chris Helmsworth one?
No, it's just
it's
Josh Brolin's doing his younger Tommy Lee Jones impression.
Oh, yeah.
That's the
I
one
had
with,
that erased from my mind somehow.
remember Luke Cage is in that movie.
Right, yeah.
Oh, Mike Coulter?
Yeah. He's in the. It's not Men in Black 3. Actually, is not bad. I rewatched it
I've completely
a few
forgotten
months ago. It actually holds up because Josh Brolin, he actually cares, and Tommy Lee stopped caring a long time ago. So Tommy Lee Jones is like whatever. So Josh Brolin doing his impression and them being in the 60s or whatever, it was good. A nice Bill Hader cameo as well. So it's a decent one. So I would say go back and watch it.
It wanted to fight the
Conqueror.
Jermaine Clement. So come on. All right.
So John brought up this question before. Needless to say, this movie has a lot of problems and holes. It didn't really put any gusto on any of the again, the Matt Smith dancing scene I actually really enjoyed because first of all, spoilers, because honestly it had vibes of Spider-Man 3, and they're just kind of just shuffling in the room and I'm like, why is his shirt off? I'm like, I don't understand what's happening, but he's just kind of dancing in the background. I'm like, cool. I guess if you're that sickly ill, you never danced before, so you want to dance like no one's watching. Cool. You do you. So I guess that was a thing. And also, again, the scene in the beginning where they're like, oh, we're two Spartans. I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is kind of a thing. I don't mind this.
Come on. You were okay with him MacGyvering and using the spring of a pen replacing a fuse of a high-powered machine of a blood trip. Yeah, okay.
Yep. Because
they could have just said he was smart. That would have been good enough.
But the thing is,
you could have done Wordle, and they'd be like,
wow, I've seen
your Wordle scores are off the chart.
Yeah, I've seen movies and TV shows do more egregious things. So for him to fix it, sure,
right?
Why not? He's an engineer by trade. What else is he going to do in his spare time? There was no internet, so if it was then, he would be like a Fortnite player. So based on that, I'm like, okay, this tracks, Rob. Back then when we were young and there was nothing to do, you'd be if you were lucky enough, you knew someone or you had your those Britannicas, those books where you could just sit there.
Encyclopedia Britannica.
You're like, oh, you're that person that had all the alphabet, the Encyclopedia Britannica. You do that, and you're like, cool. Open these books and look at these letters. Now that kid would have been playing esports. So it is what it is. John, I think you brought this question. We're going to answer it now. This movie, it is not your favorite movie. Is it the worst Marvel movie that you've seen?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what you guys got to throw some stuff on the list. I had Wonder Woman 84.
Marvel movie, John. Marvel. Have you forgotten from a guy who works in a comic book shop?
I'm saying we're not going to include Wonder Woman, which was a disaster.
No, that's
we're strictly talking Dark Phoenix, New Mutants. I don't know what else you would put on this.
Fantastic Four.
Fantastic
worst Four. One, but nothing is worse than Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four did punk Doom.
Fantastic Four, nothing is worse than 2015 Fantastic Four.
No, I feel like most of those other movies at least have something you can a part of it that you can rewatch, or someone that you rewatch it for. Like New Mutants. I forgot who the lead character was, the girl from Queen's Gambit or whatever. Yeah, you can kind of watch some of those cast members and stuff. You're like, okay, and at least it kind of has some things going for it. I think this is the worst for me. I was hard pressed to think of something.
Watch Fantastic Four again. It's bad.
I watched it recently when we did Fantastic Four and all that stuff, and at the beginning it's at least got some promise, and you can.
The first half isn't that bad. It's a decent sci-fi action movie. It just goes sideways really.
Yeah, but Morbius, Morbius doesn't get worse and doesn't get bad. It remains steady.
It remains this consistent level of trash.
Consistent level
that goes nowhere.
It's just like bland porridge the entire way across. It doesn't go up, it doesn't go
I
down.
feel like a lot of the other movies that we've watched, at least you can be like, you have something to watch. Even Dark Phoenix, there's at least some big action sequences towards the end. I think there's like a train scene or something like that.
Yeah, the train scenes
that are at least watchable as an action sequence.
Yeah.
Like I can't even describe any of the action sequences in this movie.
There was they're in the subway fighting on in bullet time. There's another like they're on a top of a building.
Even in the end, he has like the bats come and help him and stuff like that. What? Like I would never watch that scene again. So yeah.
Did you guys notice that they were using the theme song from Batman Begins? They were using like the musical score every time the bats, and I was like, "Is that Batman Begins?" Like I was like,
that's a bat theme song associated with bats now, I guess.
Yep, it's a thing.
Rob, I think it's the worst for me.
Rob,
I'm hard pressed to like it. Like this is literally battling it out versus Venom 2. Let there be carnage.
Really, Venom 2 is you're not even considering the Fantastic Four movie. Because that movie is rough. Like
it is, but the problem is that the first half of that movie, there is something about it that's like, it's just.
But isn't that worse to have a great premise and just fall so flat? It's like watching, like you're like, well, one act one, you're like, oh, this is decent, and then 2 and 3 are so bad that it's like at least from Morbius. If we weren't doing a review, like I would get a refund. Like I know right away, I'm like, with that 20-minute refund, I could leave. I'm like, I'm not missing anything. That Fantastic Four movie, if I watched it for the first 30 minutes, I'm like, okay, it's good enough that it's pretty good. And then it passed the point where you can no longer qualify for a refund. That would make me pissed. But like, really, this is one of you off the facts? Like, come on. But
listen, it's definitely down in the dumps. It's at the bottom of the barrel. I can't. Like, I'm not a fan of Apocalypse. I don't like Dark Phoenix, although I have them on Blu-ray because I'm a stupid completionist.
You sucker. What about Blade 3? Is Blade 3 in the running, guys?
No, Blade 3 is not. Blade 3 is decent.
Yeah, it's
like as you rewatch it now, like at the end of the day, knowing what you know about all the stuff that happened behind the set and everything, like it's not even the top 5. Like the top 5 really, like the bottom 5, it's like of movies. It's not even close.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, the Fantastic Four, because it gave us the promise of one thing and then it turned into something completely different. And so I guess for that reason, Fantastic Four, the Josh Trank one, is probably. But I got to tell you guys, like between like Morbius and Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, those guys are like they're not that much better.
No, like Morbius, Venom, Let There Be Carnage, or the Dark Phoenix, like X-Men Apocalypse, and Josh Trank's Fantastic Four are the worst 5.
Yeah,
like you can't argue. Like I guess you could try to argue, John, but like what's worse than those 5 movies?
Is Captain America the first Avenger on there by chance? No, okay,
not even close. And even your people like Thor 2. I'm like, Thor 2 is an Oscar-winning theatrical masterpiece compared to those 5 movies.
Yeah,
those especially Apocalypse is just yikes.
Yeah,
like it's borderline unwatchable. So I think I'm looking at this list and it's not even close. And as much as people are like, oh, Ghost Rider, I'm like, you know what? Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, it went for things. It filmed in Budapest and whatever, and it was like
that's the second one, right? That's the second one with Idris Elba and stuff.
Like that movie had the moments.
It's okay, yeah.
It's not bad, and Nicolas Cage went full Nicolas Cage, full like the flames coming out and yelling at people and stuff. Like I actually didn't hate that one. Maybe you see like Ghost Rider 1 was bad, but Rob,
no, I was going to say something, but it's a DC movie. So I was going to say Jonah Hex, but yeah,
like and it does and if we did the pantheon of all comic movies. Like,
You
yeah,
know what? You know what? This one would get graded harder than like the Jonah Hexes and the Ghost Riders because those ones didn't have the pedigree of everything that's come before it.
Yep.
Like in all fairness, these movies, the Venoms, the Morbiuses,
Like-
even Wonder Woman 84, they have a pedigree of other movies that have come before it, and there's no excuse or reason to be producing and marketing piles of steaming shit like this when you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
listen, they're not all going to be the top of the pile. They're not all going to be Winter Soldier or No Way Home or Infinity War. But and I get there's always going to be people at the bottom of the barrel. But the idea being that even the lower ranked ones are still you could rewatch them. Like that's the idea. And none of these modern day movies are rewatchable because it's just shit. And
John,
it's
I even challenge you. If we go all the way back to the Marvel films, like back to 2002, I like Daredevil, the Hulk with Ang Lee.
Ang Lee's
Like,
How about Nick Fury with David Hasselhoff?
That's not a theatrical film. Yeah, like Punisher. Then you got Punisher.
Oh, don't you dare crap talk Dolph Lundgren Punisher.
No.
Punisher.
Jane.
Yeah,
Thomas
that's
Jane. Okay, yeah.
And that's John Travolta.
Right. Yeah.
Like that, don't forget that one, John Travolta, and then Warzone, which again, it's like Ray Stevenson and like I don't even know who the bad guy was. Like
Jigsaw, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it
was it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it was like
Dominic
West. Yeah.
But actually, I've
The
heard a lot
Wire,
of
and I'm like, wait, McNulty's the bad guy, and it couldn't even like, oh my god, McNulty's the bad guy, and that movie was like, had its problems. So I don't even think, Morbius is bad, but it's somehow like it's got to the top 5, and the top 10 is like, yeah. Sorry, Rob, go ahead.
I don't know, whatever, man. Like I said, Sony was given a blueprint by Feige on how to do this shit.
Yep.
And it's not going to, I get it. It can't always be at that level, but it has to be at least somewhat competitive with the mid-tier MCU movies. What are you doing? What is Amy Pascal doing? What is Abby? Well, how is Abby Arad still like walking around?
She's making money, baby. That's all.
But this is the problem, though. I know, but this is the problem we talk about is that you guys are you're making this shit. People are going out to see it, and then it's making some money, and you're like, aha, we're going to do it again, and we're going to do it again. And it's just like,
doesn't matter because at the end of the day, no matter how many bad movies they make, they're going to come back to Spider-Man.
Well, listen, when they made Crystal Pepsi, people were like, oh, it's not that bad. And they realized, oh, this is pretty shit. And they said, screw it, we're going to go back to regular Pepsi. Like, people are just going to stop going to these Sony movies.
As far as I know, when I open my new Coke, things always stay the same.
Listen, Sony has the Valiant. Was it Sony, right? With the Valiant universe or whatever. But like they're not even doing that anymore. All they're doing is banking on the derivative aspect of the Spider-Man, and that's it, man.
Bloodshot.
I'll take Bloodshot over this for sure.
Yeah, I think so too.
I probably would as well.
Bloodshot was it again. It had its moments. It knew what type of movie it is. So yeah, Bloodshot is the Sony's.
Yeah,
it is under Sony. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's all I'm saying is that they're like, oh, we have these other properties that they could make. But yeah, you know what? Screw it. We're just going to bank on the Spider-Man Marvel piggyback and bandwagon hopping and just make all the money. And unfortunately, like, I just have an issue with it. Like, if you can't produce good shit, then you should just revert the fucking the IP back to Marvel and say, you know what? We're making money, but we're going to invest into other things. We can't live up to it. So I don't know.
Cannot, man. As long as their studio still exists until Disney decides to gobble up Sony, which maybe in the future that's what they'll have to do. We never thought possible that Fox would go be sold to Marvel. So now we're at just continue on with the other stuff. Just write off all the Spider-Man characters. We got X-Men coming, baby. We got Wolverine. That's all that matters to all of us. Snitch itch. John, tell us what's going on.
Jared Leto.
I
will say, man, the guy's 50 years old, eh? So like, at least
he looked good.
Let's get Harry Potter as Wolverine. Let's continue with that situation. Why not? Wolverine's supposed to be small. Like, he's not supposed to be 6'3". Like, he's a small man. Let's go back to the basics. Let's get Harry Potter as Wolverine. He would look great in it. John, tell us where you are in the internet, in the desert of the real.
Yeah, so you can find us online, Heroes World Online, Facebook, Instagram, our most active social medias, and the YouTube channel, of course. If for some reason you're listening on this audio and you don't know, Heroes World Online, the website Heroes World Online will set you up with whatever you need. You can message us. Not everything is listed on the website, so definitely hit us up if you're looking for something. And then if you want to check us out in the real world, we're in Markham, Ontario. Address is in the links in the bottom. You can come check us out. Tons and tons of stuff in stock. The latest Morbius trade paperback, which you should 100% read over watching this movie, is available, and you can check that out. And then if you want to check us out on the audio format, wherever you get your podcast, Heroes World Podcast, my podcast service of choice is Spotify. So check us out there if you haven't, and give us a 5-star rating. Thanks.
Rob? What's going
Yeah, so when I'm not sitting in the premier seats at Landmark Theatre in Whitby, Ontario, you can catch John and I 8:15 p.m. live every Monday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch this Monday, April the 11th. We are going back to 2007. We were just there last week with There Will Be Blood, with Daniel Plainview. I'm an oil man. But we are going into his competitor of No Country for Old Men with Javier Bardem and Thanos himself. So definitely check us out, rewatch that movie, then join John and I as we get back into No Country for Old Men, friendos. Monday, 8:15 live on the Heroes World Psychic Show, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch.
All right. Well, hopefully Craven will not be as bad as this.
I am not craving that. Let me tell you right now.
Again, locked in those balls, the volleyball. John, just let us have this. Let us have this.
It's all we got.
That's all we got, considering we got Doctor Strange coming up soon. So that's all we got. That's all we got to care about. And tickets are out. So if you haven't got them, go buy them. Available. Anyways, thank you so much for joining us today. Be safe out there. Things are ticking up in terms of the vid. So the Rona, so be careful out there.
Yeah. This movie makes COVID look like a decent thing.
Get out of here.